It is preview season here on the channel. Today, it is all about the Georgia Bulldogs. What can they be after what was a down year in 2025 or 2024? Will it be another down year in 2025, or will they be able to be back at the top of the sport once again, carrying on the dynasty that Kirby Smart has created? We'll talk about all that and more here on Armchair Analysis. Welcome in. It is August 1st, 2025, 8 p.m. It's a little bit of a prime time upload here, a double upload day. Penn State was earlier today, but today it's all about Georgia, or tonight it's all about Georgia. And I'm excited. But before we get into that, I asked that if you're new around here, you leave a like, you subscribe, specifically subscribe. We're trying to get to 200 before we get to week 0, which is August 23rd. I think we can make that happen. Thank you all for tuning in, though. It's been a fun ride. We're trying to build a great community around here, a community that loves to talk ball. I like to talk ball with you guys in the comments, especially when you guys give legitimate feedback. There have definitely been some troll comments, and that's fine. I don't mind those. I think that's fun. That's part of doing this. It's part of putting yourself out there online. It is it's a good time though, and I've been enjoying it. I hope you guys have been enjoying this content, this preview season. Looking to maybe expand it a little bit next year. I don't know yet. We'll see. That's a lot of work to do, but we might expand it a little bit next year and do some things a little bit differently. So if you guys are interested in something like that, let me know down below, and we can see what we can put together. But certainly it's been a fun time. We haven't really gotten to get to a lot of news throughout this preview season, so we got a lot to catch up on August 11th, I believe it is, the first Monday after we finish preview season, which is going to be basically a catch up on everything over the summer that we missed while we were doing preview season. And then we roll into conference predictions and all that stuff, along with playoff predictions, Heisman predictions, and then a week 0 preview where we talk about like Farmageddon and all kinds of fun stuff. We've got a lot planned, so make sure y'all stick around for that. And without further ado, let's talk Georgia Bulldogs 2025. Before we do that, we got to go back and talk about 2024, which this team was 11-3, 6-2, SEC champions. They beat Texas out there in Atlanta. I almost said Dallas because, again, it's still new that Texas is in the SEC. Obviously, we've known about it for about 4 years now, but it's still pretty new to everybody, and it's still interesting to talk about. But we'll cover that base later. This team scored 31 or averaged 31.5 points per game last year. That was 38th in college football. Kind of like Penn State earlier today. Like, again, weird to say that's 30 something in college football, but that's a modern era. Team allowed 20.6 points per game, which is 23rd. Turnover margin of negative 0.2. That was 69th. Nice in college football. This team was second in recruiting last season, only to Texas. And they were 22nd in the portal with 10 portal commitments. A couple of those on defense. Majority of those came from the offensive side of the ball. But they did a lot of good, and I think that they have went to address a lot of the issues that they seem to have from last season. And I'm really looking forward to the new era with Gunnar Stockton. Kirby Smart, of course, returns for yet another year. This is now going to be year 10 for him, which is, again, kind of like James Franklin yesterday when I said 10 or 11. I knew we were coming up on 10, but I didn't know we were that close. But Kirby Smart has created what some have considered a dynasty in the sport. And certainly when you're making the playoff every year, you're winning winning the SEC, or at least in Atlanta for the SEC title every year. It certainly is not far-fetched to say that it could be considered such. But this is a team that is really looking to turn some things around this year. They did not love particularly how the offense played, specifically the turnover situation last year. This is a team that didn't create a bunch of turnovers. They created 20, which is a good number. It's right down the middle, but it's certainly not what they were looking for. They were looking for a lot more last year. But also on top of that, when you have Carson Beck making mistakes, especially in the big games, it felt like that's when he really fell apart. That's where we saw a lot of the inefficiencies and problems for this team. They look to turn this around this year. And again, Gunnar Stockton's a big deal and a big part of that. Of course, Carson Beck went down with an injury last year. Torn UCL, had elbow repaired, transferred to Miami. It's Gunnar Stockton's show, and I think that that's certainly not going to change, barring either a turnover fest or injury, which we don't expect, we don't predict, and we don't want to see injuries happen here on this channel. But should he go down, they do have freshman quarterback Ryan Puglisi, who I think is a really solid player, and I'm excited to see him get his chance to start at some point. probably down the road, of course, with Stockton only being a junior. But Ryan Puglisi, I think he's going to be a good backup. And if he gets on the field, I personally trust him a lot to carry on and maybe even play better and take over that job going forward. You look at Mike Bobo as the offensive coordinator. He has been in this role multiple times and has most recently taken over last year. And the offense stayed pretty solid. They like their pro-style concept and like to really try to establish the run game, but it's a pro-style passing or run game, pro-style offense that predicates the run game and likes to build on play action pass. And that's what they're going to continue to do. And they really use their tight ends really well. We'll talk more about that because they've got two really solid ones who played a good amount last year. Defensive coordinator Glenn Schumann back again and excited to see what he can do. This is a team that certainly has the potential to do some serious damage this year. Looking at the offense, though, this team, again, led by Mike Bobo offensively, 4 returning starters. Gunnar Stockton's not one of them. They have Dylan Bell, Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky, and an offensive lineman returning from last season. Gunnar Stockton looks to kind of make his mark on this team and prove himself as the leader, as the new quarterback. Nate Frazier as the new running back, the sophomore, kind of took over this job over the course of last year, is expected to be a big-time part of it. But then they also brought in Josh McCray from Illinois. He's going to be a guy who they really like to use short yardage or anytime they really want to go between the tackles. At wide receiver, they got Dylan Bell, who returns again, like I said earlier, as a starter. But then they also have Colby Young, Zachariah Branch, and Noah Thomas comes over from Texas A&M. Zachariah Branch coming from USC. That was a big deal in the portal. And those guys will be awesome and interesting to watch. I keep saying interesting. Interesting is like the new drinking word here on this show, and I got to find a new word to use. But Branch and Thomas, that's going to be a fun pair to watch how they can kind of be implemented into the offense and play, because Zachariah Branch feels more like a guy that you would expect to be able to get the big play. But last year, as a matter of fact, he had 47 catches for 500 yards and a touchdown, and while averaging 10.7 yards per carry or yards per catch. You would expect those numbers to be a little higher for a guy with that kind of speed and that kind of playmaking ability. We just didn't see it, but we know he's going to be a specialist. He's going to be returning punts and kicks. What can he do on the offensive side of the ball? Noah Thomas is a guy that I think is going to plug and play very well, very efficiently. At tight end, you got Oscar Delp and Lawson Lucky. Like I said, 2 returning starters, played a lot last year, were big parts of the offense. No changes expected there. These guys are going to be really good and really beneficial to this offense going forward. This is a team that's pass block grade was 78.7. That was 11th in the Power 4. Their run block was 68.1. That was 24th in Power 4. Again, only returning one of those 5 starters from last year is certainly going to take some time to figure out what the O-line is going to be. They thankfully have a little bit of time to figure it out going into this season with Marshall and Austin Peay to start the season. But they will have to have it figured out by the time they take a road trip to Knoxville and play Tennessee on September 13th. That'll be their first big test. That'll be the first opportunity to really see what they can do as an offense. Defensively, we kind of know what to expect, and I think they'll kind of shine in that game. That's going to be a lower scoring game. We'll get to more of a schedule prediction later. 3 returning starters from last year on the defensive side of the ball, again led by Glenn Schumann, a defensive coordinator. 10 of 11 players on this defense are from last year's roster. 1 transfer that they're expecting to play, which is Ilu Madozi from Army, transferring in. But they also bring in Zion Branch, who's going to be a safety and going to kind of plug and play, not as a starter, but he is going to get a considerable amount of playing time. At least I would assume that's going to be the case. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, because I don't honestly know. I don't have the inside scoop, and I cover the excuse that I cover 136 teams. It's not really an excuse. It's honest. One person covered 136 teams. Not easy. I expect Zion Branch to play a good amount. I'm not saying he's going to start, and I'm not saying he's even really remotely in contention to start, because I think they're really excited for Ja'Cory Thomas to play his senior year in that position. But should he get some playing time, I think he could be an interesting playmaker. That's why he is on this list of transfers that could get some considerable playing time. Returning leaders from last year, C.J. Allen leads this team in returning tackles with 76 from last year. He was second on the team overall, as it stood anyways. Raylan Wilson leads his team in tackles for loss with 7. Had to dig a little deeper for that number. They have Gabe Harris Jr. with 2 sacks returning from last year. That's a number they're looking to improve, and I think it's just kind of a fact of turnover on the defensive line. But if there's one thing I trust when it comes to Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann as a pair, that front seven is going to be stout. Defensively, in the turnover department, interceptions, Dalen Everett led the team with 3, and then they had multiple players lead the team with 2 forced fumbles. 8 interceptions and 12 forced fumbles, which is 20 total turnover opportunities. Again, I use forced fumbles because that's kind of more of an accurate representation of plays on the ball versus, kind of an interesting bounce of ball, because the way you look at forced fumbles is the ball can kind of go any direction. It can be a sack or a strip sack that leads to an offensive lineman who just happens to be there making the play, but they still made an opportunity and a play on the ball, created a chance to take the ball away. That's why I like using that stat a little bit more than the fumble recoveries as a whole. Names to watch, as I mentioned earlier, Zachariah Branch is one that I think I'm keeping my eye on as how he plays in the offense. I know he's going to be a good return guy. We can expect that. But what can he do in the open space on offense? Because, again, this is a guy that averaged 10.7 yards per catch last year, 503 total yards on 47 receptions, which I don't mind those numbers. I don't mind those numbers at all. I would like to see the touchdown numbers come up and him be utilized a little more in that situation. But overall, I truly do not think that he has to be like an 80-plus catch guy. He really doesn't even need to be a 50-plus catch guy. He just needs to be a 15-plus yards per catch guy. That's kind of the number that I would put on him and put upon him as the playmaker that he has been projected to be over the course of his career. If that number can go up, and really if that 10.7 can go up to 14, 8, 15, I think then we are talking about a truly dynamic playmaker who fits into this offense, along with the other guys who are more consistent and just more so the every down receivers. That's my personal take on what Zachariah Branch should be. Does that mean it's accurate? Does that mean that's what they're going to do? No, because I don't know. I'm not a coach. I'm not Kirby Smart. I don't have access to Kirby Smart to ask him. He wouldn't tell me anyways. But I do think that that's kind of what I would expect to see from him going forward. As for this schedule, as we go ahead and pull it up on the screen for you, it's not the toughest thing in the world. They do play Marshall, Austin Peay, Charlotte, and Georgia Tech as their non-conference. Georgia Tech, obviously the toughest of those 4, and an every year rivalry. This game went to how many overtimes was it? It doesn't say, but I'm almost certain it was 7 or 8 last year against Georgia Tech. So that'll be a fun game to watch, and excited because both these teams bring back a good amount, or Georgia Tech brings back a good amount rather than Georgia. But the conference schedule is tough, but I think it's workable. You talk about Tennessee on the road. Tennessee's got a lot to work out themselves. Alabama's working out a lot of different things themselves as well. Kentucky is an offense you can shut down, but Kentucky's defense has been really good against Georgia over the last few years. Last year, that 13-12 game, I think it was. That'll be interesting. I don't remember that game too. I remember that game enough because I was in the hospital watching it, but I don't fully remember what the final of that game was. I guess I could look here. It was 13-12. Okay, I was right. The morphine didn't get me that bad. But they go on the road to face Auburn. Face Ole Miss, of course, in a game that I think they're looking for some revenge. They got dominated in that game last year. I think it was 28-10. I was going to say 27-10. So yeah, 28-10 to Ole Miss. They'll play Florida in a game that's, I think, super hyped up this year. And then Texas, of course, they'll get in a rematch of the SEC championship game. But they also played last year in Austin. So that'll be interesting. Their over-unders projected at 9.5. There's odds to win the conference are plus 290. That's second. I'm almost certain that is second in this conference to Texas. And then their national championship odds are plus 650. That's in the top 3 as well. let's go ahead and predict this thing, and I'll go ahead and throw 2 wins up. I think they beat Marshall and Austin Peay 2-0 going into Knoxville. I think they're going to get a win there too. I think this one's going to be a matter of more continuity in Georgia and a better quarterback. I think Gunnar Stockton is better than Joey Aguilar. That's going to create a bit more of an issue, and I think they're going to be able to create problems for Aguilar to really have to find a way to kind of overcome adversity. Might be a little more difficult in the first big game like that. They'll get a bye week before they play a home game against Alabama, and last year they lost this game to Alabama, and they lost it on the road. They're wanting to get it back also at home, and again, just I think a better roster situation Georgia has than what Alabama's kind of looking at right now early on, especially offensively. I'm going to trust Georgia just a little more, especially out of the bye. Both teams come out of a bye as well, by the way, in that one. Home game against Kentucky, they'll get a win there. I think pretty convincing. They'll beat Auburn on the road. That'll be a tougher game. I think that's more likely to be a loss or a point for a loss than the Tennessee game on the road earlier in the year. I would be interested to watch Jackson Arnold and what he's utilized as going into this game, kind of how much does he run the ball, how many plays does he make as a quarterback, and how can he kind of adjust his turnover issues over the course of his career. But they'll be 6-0. Georgia will be going out of this game. They'll face Ole Miss and get a win there to move on to 7-0. They'll get a bye week before they face Florida. And that's a big deal because they face Florida out of that bye. And I believe that the Gators are coming out of 1-2. I'm taking Florida to get the win here. That's going to be Georgia's first loss. I just think that I really like DJ Lagway. They'll be the first quarterback of his kind, really, in terms of the ability to run the football, be mobile, be athletic, and really with the experience that he has too. Because I think Austin Simmons a couple weeks before can be a good preparation factor, but 2 differences there: left-handed and a freshman, or maybe not a freshman. Hang on, let me double check that I got that right. I think that I'm right, but just I think doesn't mean I know. Sophomore, sorry, but he'll be his first year starting. I think the experience factors is going to be a big deal. Florida gets the job done and pulls the win or upset, however you want to look at it. They'll go on the road, get a win over Mississippi State to bounce back. They'll beat Texas in Athens, a win over Charlotte as expected. Going to that final game against Georgia Tech, where it's certainly an upset-capable game, but I think that last year opened their eyes. Hey, we need to take these guys serious. 11-1, 7-1 in SEC play. I think that's really solid. I don't know if that's going to put them in Atlanta. I have to look and compare to other schools, and I'll know, of course, when I do my SEC season preview as a conference, talk about player of the year, stuff like that. But when we talk about this team right here, I'm really excited to watch them kind of bounce back and put themselves back in the conversation. Hey, look, we are that team. Look, they went 10-2 last year in the regular season, 11-2 with the win over Texas. A down year, and they still won an SEC title. And I think this year people are overlooking the roster because there's not the names on the roster. But how many times have we overlooked rosters because of the names? I mean, we overlooked this team with Stetson Bennett for 2 years. For 2 years. And they had one of the best defenses in the country in 2021. 2022, they ended up kind of replicating, and Stetson Bennett was damn good. Look, I buy the jersey of the national champion every year if I don't already have one, or I didn't already buy one. In the case of Michigan, when I went to Ann Arbor and bought a J.J. McCarthy and a Tom Brady jersey up there, I buy a jersey every year. And I felt the need to buy a Stetson Bennett jersey. So that's what we have, is Stetson Bennett jersey from the playoff. It's not game worn or anything, but it's a playoff jersey. People doubted this guy. People are going to doubt Gunnar Stockton and his ability to lead this offense. And they're going to doubt it because there's not a lot of guys who are returning to this team. I'm telling you, this is not the team to doubt. This Georgia team is good. They are damn good. And they are certainly going to put themselves in contention for another national championship. So that's where I stand. Let me know where you guys stand. If you're a Georgia fan, let me know. I'm sure you're pissed that I gave Florida the win. I'm sorry, but you're still 11-1. Don't hate me too much. It's going to be a fun year to watch for these guys, and I think that the bounce back is going to be real. they're going to have a really solid opportunity. I thank y'all for tuning in. Again, if you're new around here, leave a like, subscribe. Again, we're trying to hit 200 by the time week 0 comes around. That's a little over 3 weeks. I think we can get the job done there. Tomorrow we got SMU. Last year's ACC runners-up. I'm excited for that. We got Arizona State coming up on the 3rd. Indiana on the 4th, and then Texas is our next SEC team that we got to preview. I don't know why I did it backwards on there, as Georgia was the conference champion, but I don't know. It is what it is. I just thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for the support recently. Continue to build this community. Been a lot of fun so far. Hoping to continue the fun and really create a fun community where we can all talk ball, and I talk ball with you guys in the comments. Whether you guys are trolling me, whether you guys are mad at something I said, or whether you guys think I'm wrong, I don't care. I don't care if you think I'm wrong, because at the end of the day, it's my opinion. I know I'm posting my opinion out there, and I know that people are not always going to agree or like it. I don't care if you agree or like it. I care that we just have fun. We talk about the sport that we love so much, that we want to get to a place where maybe the college football playoff is the perfect solution, but we find a way to perfect it even. This sport deserves and has the best fans in the world. It has the best atmospheres in the world. It has the most pure form of the of anything, whether it's college or professional sports, that we find out there, at least in the stick and ball sports, I suppose, as you would call it. I mean, motorsports is a totally different deal, but this is the purest sport in the world, and I wanted to say that way. I want to find ways to continue to make it better, continue to advocate for it to be better. And to do that, we have to have this community continue to grow. And so I just thank y'all for doing that. We had a great month last month. I hope we can continue it here in August. And yeah, I thank y'all for tuning in. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to get off my whatever you want to call it. I just thank y'all so much. We'll see you guys tomorrow with the SMU Mustangs. Y'all have a blessed rest of your night.